This is how I designed the logo for my solo design studio. I'll show you how I went from just a thought to the final logo ready for use. You'll see every step that goes into designing a logo, and maybe you'll realize why we need humans to do design work. The birth of a logo starts with a name. I came up with Studio Ziptie as my name, really by chance. I've known forever that I want to do something creative as a career, so I figured I'd run a studio of some kind. So that's where studio comes from. I don't remember why, but one day I was messing around with my name by pairing it with different words. I soon realized that tie rhymes with zip tie. Now, I tend to have these world-changing thoughts that would better all of humanity, but I don't write them down, so I forget them. But for some reason, zip tie really just stuck in my brain. Normally I'd forget that type of thing, but like one of those fishes that hang around with sharks, it just stayed. So why zip tie? Honestly, I didn't really know for a while, but one day I needed to tie up a cable to a bar that had come loose. Naturally, I decided to use zip ties because they're the tool for the job. And I realized that creative and design, especially good design, acts like a zip tie. It binds ideas and businesses together so tightly that it's difficult to separate. Think about an idea such as premium, and companies like Apple come to mind. And so a zip tie can represent good design and powering business. With my name figured out, I can actually head in a direction for the logo. But before I really get into the design process, there's a couple of important things you need to know about logos. A good logo does not describe the business. The logo's job is to identify, not describe. That's what marketing and copy is for. Describe your business in your copy, not in your logo. The second thing, Sagi Haviv's logo guidelines. Sagi Haviv said that the logo needs to be appropriate, which means it conveys the right feeling about the company. Distinctive, which means it's unique enough to be its own thing, but not so unique that it's impossible to remember. And simple, which means it's legible and versatile. And the third thing to know about logos is you might not like your logo initially. You like your logo over time. It's a curve that looks like this. This is your admiration. It's down here because you don't like it. But over time, you'll begin to like it because it represents you, and you'll feel ownership over it. Sagi Haviv, the guy I mentioned earlier, well, he's a designer at, I'm gonna butcher these, Chermayeff, Geismar, and Haviv. They've designed the Warner Bros. Logo, National Geographic, America 250. He's a big deal. And he told the story of designing the Chase logo.
What is it? How do we represent the bank? So they thought that maybe with the exposure of the bank every day in the newspaper, maybe they can establish a simple abstract mark that over time can come to represent the bank. So they came back with some options, and this one, the simple blue octagon, came to be favored by David Rockefeller. David Rockefeller liked it, but John McCloy, the chairman, said, "What the hell is this? I don't understand it. What does it mean? It's not us." So on and on they went, and finally, under pressure, John McCloy said, "Okay, David, if you want it, you can have it for the retail bank, but I don't want to see it on my letterhead. I don't want to see it on my business card. I don't want to see it in my office. I hate it." And 6 months later, Ivan and Tom ran into John McCloy in the hallway. He was wearing a tie bar with a logo on it, and a tie with a pattern of the logo, and cufflinks of the logo, and even a baseball cap with the logo. Because it had become the representation of the bank, and he felt a sense of ownership. And this taught us that you don't need to like a logo right away.
So with that out of the way, here's how I designed my logo. For me, logo design is a 5-phase process. The first phase is style. What do I want my logo to look like? How do I want my logo to make people feel? These are the types of questions I'm exploring in this phase. Normally, I'd create a stylescape which guides the design process and gives me inspiration for the logo and helps me stay consistent with a certain style. Another thing I'd come up with is something called brand nouns, which is just a list of nouns that I can use to depict the logo. But because I already had these things built into my brain, I skipped it. To me, it was obvious that I somehow had to depict a Z made in the shape of a zip tie. A zip tie has this square end, and then this shape on the other end. So the challenge for me is, how much detail do I want to include? Do I want to show this rectangle in the square? Do I want to show the ribs on the zip tie? Do I want to make it look weathered and worn? These are the types of questions I need to consider in the design. Once I've done an ample amount of research and brainstorming, the next phase can begin. Divergence is a big, scary word. It basically just means to extend in different directions. I actually stole the name for this phase and the next phase from this video by James Lee. Fantastic video. If you're a creative person, go watch it. But the point of this phase is to explore. It's to get all of the ideas in my head out onto a page. Doesn't matter what it is or how bad it is, just get it out. I'm looking for shapes that I can combine together to form relationships. I'm looking for things that connect or things that are similar. I'm looking for contrasting ideas that might pair well together. This is mostly an analog process with pencil to paper on a sketchbook. I know, paper is rare to see in the 2020s and beyond, but it's the best way to explore the possibilities. I'm essentially creating a mountain of ideas. On any given logo, I can sketch, no joke, over 1,000 ideas for a logo, just to find the one that fits. On a project I'm working on right now, I have about 600 ideas sketched in a sketchbook and another 700 or more in my design program. It gets insane. But at some point, I have to filter through this haystack of ideas to find the needle, the one logo that works for the company. It's hard to express how I know which one's the right one. The best way I can describe it is like an artist's intuition. There are some designs I come up with that I just know that it fits the brand. And so I'm sketching and sketching and sketching until I get that feeling that I finally found the right idea. Sometimes this comes immediately, sometimes it takes a while, but I'm constantly referring back to the stylescape or the brand nouns to make sure that the logo can hold meaning for the company. Logos shouldn't be meaningless shapes. They should be symbols that represent the company's values. And if I'm ever drifting away from that, the stylescape and brand nouns nudge me back into place. So the challenge in this phase is finding no more than 3 logos that can represent the brand perfectly. Ideally, I narrow it down to 1 logo and that's the one. But even if there's 3, this phase ends once I've decided on the 1 logo that gets to move on. For my logo, I got what I wanted pretty quickly, so it's on to the next phase. This is where I begin exploring again, but this time with the 1 logo that's been selected. It's all about variation. The smallest changes make a big impact. And so what I'm trying to do here is take a sketch or a quick vector and balance it into something much more refined. Then I have to play with the smallest elements of the design. Do I want rounded corners? Do I like the spacing here? Is the square too big? Is this angle too much? I pick apart every aspect of the logo. Once I've done a decent amount of exploration, it's time to hone in on one idea. If this was a client project, I'd be sending these variations for review to see what the client likes, but since this is my logo, I can work through this much faster. By the time I get to this phase, the logo should be complete, but there's a couple of checks that need to be done to ensure it's ready for the world. These are the things that I check for. I'll create mock-ups to ensure that this is going to work the way I want it to. If I find that the logo is too hard to read on a website or that it doesn't work in a letterhead, then I have to go back and tweak the design. This logo is pretty simple, so no adjustments needed to be made. Once I know that the logo works and is versatile, then I pair it with the word mark, which is a whole separate conversation, and export it in all the necessary file formats. This is what the document looks like when I have it all laid out. It gets pretty insane. But this way I have everything I need if I ever need to design a letterhead or a website or I need a profile pic. The thing about logo design is that every element has to mean something. So for my logo, it represents my solo studio. To me, the square represents stability and confidence, while the notch in the middle, slightly off center, represents outside of the box thinking and shows movement. The zip tie shape as a whole represents how good design can empower business, and the overall lockup represents my value that simplicity is powerful. And there we go, the logo's done. But this isn't the end for the logo. I'll still go on to create an identity system, which involves color and type and stuff, but that's outside of the scope of this video. Let me know if you'd like to see how I created the identity system for Studio ZipTie. I mean, I'll probably make that video anyways. But hopefully you see that there's a lot of thought that goes into creating a logo like this. Anyway, thanks for watching. Peace out.